Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This is the podcast for dairy producers and professionals who are committed to moving our industry forward. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and each week we bring you the leaders, the lessons, and real-world stories from the people who have built the dairy business we know today and those who are shaping its future. Join us on the journey by following Uplevel Dairy on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox. We've got something really special in store for you here this week on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. We're proud to partner with the National Dairy Shrine to bring you a series of interviews with 5 of their Pioneer Award winners. These are people who have shaped the industry we know today, leaders whose visions, risks, and ideas have moved us forward in genetics, genomics, embryo transfer, and so much more. And joining me to introduce this series, as well as to tell us about some of the other initiatives and even a new award for emerging dairy leaders, is National Dairy Shrine Executive Director Mike Opperman. Let's get to it here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Mike, thanks for joining me here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. You are on as a guest today for a couple of reasons, but number one is the relationship that I have between Uplevel Dairy and National Dairy Shrine, which you are the executive director of, but also wanted to share a little bit about you and not only your longstanding history in the dairy industry, but give you a minute to let people know who you are, what you do, and why you're doing it. So Mike, give us a quick little intro to you.
Thanks, Peggy. I grew up on a dairy in Iowa, had a dairy science degree at Iowa State, and started out my career at Hoard's Dairyman, which I still live in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin today. Went through some different job changes in my early career, managed a dairy for a while, and then was part of an advertising agency in Milwaukee for 16 years. Left there, and then I was director of dairy content at Farm Journal for about 3 years, and then started my own small PR agency about 6 years ago called Black Dirt Communications. And about that same time, I became executive director of National Dairy Shrine, which I've thoroughly enjoyed for these past, unbelievably, about 6 years now.
So I want to dig into the National Dairy Shrine for a moment. But before we do that, you forgot to mention that you have another title on your resume now. It's podcast host.
That's right. I appreciate you bringing that up. Fittingly enough, I started a podcast on Halloween last year, which I guess was scary enough. But it's called Chat BDC. It's just a daily 5-minute podcast on news of the day. There's a dairy news item, a general ag item, and then a financial news piece. So it comes out every morning at 5 o'clock on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So
that is one of the hats that you wear, but the one that we are wearing in this conversation today is National Dairy Shrine. And so for those that aren't familiar with National Dairy Shrine, what is it?
Sure. So National Dairy Shrine started way back in June of 1949 with a group of visionary dairy leaders. And originally Dairy Shrine was developed to preserve the history of the great cattle in our industry and the great breeders who developed them. And that was the kind of the focus of the organization for many years. In 1981, the National Dairy Shrine Museum was built here in Fort Atkinson as a way to expand the organization and really get more into preserving the history of the dairy industry, and then also being a place where we could educate people who weren't affiliated with agriculture about the dairy industry. Fast forward to today, we are in our 76th year. We've had more than 20,000 people have become members of Dairy Shrine since our beginning, which spans everything from dairy producers to dairy industry professionals, academia, people in the processing industry. Anyone who is an enthusiast about the dairy industry can be a member of Dairy Shrine. And we're really laser focused on our mission, and we have a three-pronged mission. And the first is to inspire youth, and we do that through scholarships. Last year, we awarded $50,000 to college students who are involved in the dairy industry. Our second pillar is around recognizing dairy leaders, and we do that through our awards program and our Hall of Fame that is in our museum here in Fort. And then our third thing is preserving history, and that's really what our museum is about. So we're proud to have been around for 76 years. We think we play an important role in the industry. Any industry that's been around for as long as the dairy industry needs to have a place that preserves history and recognizes the leaders that have made things happen. And that's what we do.
And that impact, I can speak on behalf of it as one of those young people that received the scholarships when I would have been in college. Those scholarships were essential for farm kids like me for our education. So it's a privilege for me to feel like I get to give back a little bit now to the Dairy Shrine because it helped me develop as a young person. And it's also been enjoyable the last couple of years. We've partnered at World Dairy Expo to bring together this young professionals luncheon. And so that's been a nice event to put together career panels with others in the industry to be able to share their stories, what they've learned with young people in those seats. That's on the Monday right before World Dairy Expo starts. And really it's open to those college students that are there on campus or that are there at Expo that day. Maybe they're there judging, but you've really wanted to extend that offering to other people that are early in their careers and looking for a place to plug in and connect. And that's not the only thing that National Dairy Shrine is doing for young professionals. There's more, right, Mike?
Yeah, the student luncheon really started because we felt like there was a need in the industry to really help young professionals in the dairy industry with kind of professional development skills. So we started that 4 years ago. Again, on Monday of Expo, we knew that there were a lot of kids that were hanging over from the judging contest that was the day before. And we literally started as, well, let's just give these kids a free meal and have a program. And it's evolved to, well, last year was standing room only for that. And our outreach to young people has really evolved. We had our first webinar late last year. It was kind of about bridging the gap between generations that people run into in the industry, whether it's working with an older generation or multi-generational business or farm. And that was really well received. And we've had a lot of great feedback from that. So we decided to have another one, and we'll have another one here in a couple of weeks that is all about, you'll appreciate this, it's all about dealing with burnout in the industry and all of the things that people have to deal with in managing their schedules, work-life balance, things like that. So it's really an opportunity for us to give the young people in the industry, whether they're in college or earlier in their careers, with just some professional development advice from people who've been through it. So we'll do a lot more of those coming up.
Well, what a great effort to be able to continue to assist young people, whether that was through the scholarships they received in college or that networking and support as they enter their professional careers as dairy producers and out there working in the industry as well. So thank you, Mike, for sharing with us what National Dairy Shrine has been doing on those fronts. It's probably a good time, too, to mention one more effort, and this is a new one. So Dairy Shrine has several awards that you accept nominations for every year. I'm going to have you walk through a little bit of what those awards are, but there's one in particular I'd like you to start with because it's new and it pertains to, once again, that next generation of leaders in the dairy industry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's the Emerging Leader Award, and it's designed, again, to recognize people in the industry who are making an impact as a young professional. So the award is for people who are 40 years or under, making an impact in the industry as a young professional, who have stepped up and taken leadership roles or done exciting things in the industry. Just recognizing them. If you remember, there used to be things in the industry like 40 under 40, and there's a lot of different groups that have that. Well, we're not going to recognize 40 people, but we might recognize 4 every year who have had a tremendous impact on the industry. And it shouldn't be thought of as just somebody who is in the industry. This could be dairy producers, all of those great young families who are out there making a difference on the farm, or people in the industry who might be at a company in a marketing or sales or technical role. It could be somebody, a young professor in academia who's making great contributions. Certainly anybody in the processing industry, in that wide open area of the processing industry, who are young and making a difference. So we're really excited about it. And it's something that we've thought about for a few years and just finally all came together this past fall when our board approved moving forward with it. And we're really excited about the opportunity this year.
Well, it is a great opportunity. And I know in my mind already, I have a couple of folks that I would love to nominate for that. And so remind me and anybody else out there that's thinking the same thing. When is the deadline for the nominations, and what do we got to do to get some recognition for some of those up and coming leaders that we see around us in the dairy community?
Yeah, so applications opened on the 1st of January and will close on March 15th. So we've got a good period of time to get applications in. And applications for all of our awards are available on our website at dairyshrine.org. Just look for the awards tab, and there'll be a place where you can find the application right there.
That's at dairyshrine.org. All right. And speaking of awards, there are other awards that you seek nominations for every year. What are some of the other ones on that list?
Our award that started way back in 1949 is our Guest of Honor Award. And that is really, it's given to one person every year who has made significant contributions across all of the dairy industry. We've honored, I think, 82 now Guest of Honor recipients since our beginning in 1949. And it's really a who's who of anybody who's done anything great in the dairy industry. And their pictures are hung in the museum as part of our Hall of Fame. And then we also have our Pioneer Awards, which is awarded to folks who have also made significant contributions, but maybe in a specific part of the industry, whether it's genetics or nutrition or dairy processing or whatever that might be. And we generally offer 4 of those awards every year. And then we also honor distinguished dairy cattle breeders. And again, the number of people that we've honored with that award are some of the greatest breeders and dairy producers that you have ever known. And they're recognized in our Hall of Fame as well. And all of those applications are available on our website.
Now, speaking of these awards, I had the incredible opportunity last year at World Dairy Expo to be a little bit of a part of getting on the other side of this by sitting down and interviewing some of the past Pioneer Award winners. And Mike, let me tell you, this was one of the highlights of World Dairy Expo for me. These interviews have been captured back in October. You just released them through National Dairy Shrine. We're going to be dropping them right here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. I'm so excited to share these with our audience. So this included a list of Peter Vale, talking about his life and history of how he got into dairy cattle, but not in a way that you would have even expected. So that one's got some twists and turns. That one's a fun one. We have Bonnie Ayars, who is the most energetic little lady I've ever met in my life. How old is Bonnie?
I'm not going to say, but I hope that I someday have the energy and ability that she has, certainly.
Same here. So she has a lot of energy and a lot of leadership, and this sweet lady. There's a conversation with Bonnie. We were able to also sit down with George Wiggins, Joe Lineweaver, and Scott Armbrust. And again, these incredible stories of people told in their words of their history and in their eyes, what they view as their impact. We're talking about some of the pioneers of embryo transfer here and of genomics. These are the things that are standard in our industry today, and the people that were in at the ground level of the science of figuring it all out of how to make it happen. One of my personal favorites, Mike, in those conversations was Joe Lineweaver. So he is how old?
He's in his 90s. I think he was 95 when we interviewed him.
Oh, 95. And I have the sweetest little pair of earrings that he gave to me. These little cowhead earrings. And so 95 years old and still traveling, still sharp. The recall of these gentlemen, of the dates and the times and the timestamps in their own lives that they can recall, is something to be admired and to strive for. So those are a few that really stood out to me. Mike, which ones were the most memorable for you from this year's bunch?
Boy, it's hard to say. When you think about just, okay, so the categories, right? So Joe Lineweaver and Scott Armbrust. If you want to understand embryo transfer and the impact that that technology has had on the dairy industry, start with Joe Lineweaver and how he was really a pioneer in developing the technology and making sure that it worked, and then getting it from frozen to fresh embryos and then marketing those embryos. That is a real history lesson right there. And then Scott Armbrust taking that technology and really commercializing it. And then all of the great cattle that he's been a part of, Frosty and Barbara and all those great icons of the breed. That was really something to listen to. And then the consummate man behind the scenes in George Wiggins. It's not a stretch to say that there's not a cow in the world who hasn't been impacted by the research that George Wiggins and his colleague Paul Van Raden did at USDA AIPL and their genetic evaluation programs, bringing those from really simple means to what they are today with genomics and all of that technology, and just the ability and the foresight that they had to develop that, and all of the hurdles that they had to go through and pushback and everything from a lot of different places is really interesting. And then God love Bonnie Ayars. Like you said, just the energy and enthusiasm and faith and fortitude that she has, and a great cow person too, oh, by the way. And then Peter Vale, I mean, when he talked about the cattle sale he went to at Madison Square Garden.
Yes. And who was the famous person that was there?
Harrison Ford.
Yes. Now, this is behind the scenes of an interview with Peter Vale. This is the uncut. So his phone's ringing during the interview. And after we got done recording, he pulls up his phone and he's like, oh, that's so-and-so. And it's this lady that's calling. And I'm like, well, who's that? And he's like, oh, well, she used to be the bartender at the Sheridan. So this is a person that he had met 20, 30 years ago. She was the bartender at the Sheridan, but then she was so good at what she did that they would fly her out to New York to bartend at their sales. You just step back and you're like, this is what makes people stand out so much in our industry, is that ability to make these connections and to see like, ooh, that person's got that skill set. I'm going to bring them into what I'm doing. And to me, it was just so funny that he's like, oh, it's so-and-so calling. And that was the story behind that. We had some good chuckles behind the scenes on these podcasts.
You hit on why we do those interviews, right? So Dairy Shrine has been blessed with having some really visionary people. And back in the late 1980s, we started doing those videos of leaders in the industry. So you can go back and you can listen to an interview with Bill Knox from Hoard's Dairyman, or Gene Meyer, or Art Nesbitt, or anybody who's a dignitary in the dairy industry is probably captured on video. Personally, it's great for me. My dad was interviewed back in 1988 when he was secretary of the Brown Swiss Association. So my kids and I can go to the museum whenever we want, pull up Dad's video and sit and have a chat with him or listen to him. It's really a great way to preserve history. And if people want to see them, all they have to do is go to our YouTube channel, and there's a playlist of all of the videos.
All of that and more through the National Dairy Shrine. But this week on Uplevel Dairy Podcast, you'll be able to find them right here too. But for more, you can definitely check out and make sure you're following and subscribing to National Dairy Shrine's YouTube channel as well, so that you can tap into these conversations we had at World Dairy Expo in 2025, but more so into the deep collection of curated history that has made the dairy industry that we know today. And more importantly, the people that didn't even realize they were making history along the way, but their voices and their stories have been captured in that collection. And so we're excited to be able to share that with you. And I thank you again, Mike, for allowing me to be a little tiny part of capturing some of that this year at World Dairy Expo. And hopefully we can do more of that in the future as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate your abilities and your help in putting that all together. And for everything that you do for Dairy Shrine, we're so appreciative, Peggy. We're looking forward to doing more of those next year.
Excellent. Well, Mike, as we wrap up here, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with as far as National Dairy Shrine, how people can get involved, or any other resources that might be helpful?
National Dairy Shrine is about the people that support it. And you can support it in a number of ways, obviously through any sort of donations to help with scholarships or operations or anything like that of the organization. If you'd like to be a member of one of our committees, we have literally hundreds of people who review scholarships and awards applications and are just a part of our committee structure. So if you're not on a committee but would like to be, reach out. Certainly, we talked about the award applications. You can find those on our website. If you're a young person listening to this, our scholarship program starts up on March 1st. That goes through April 15th. So you'll see all of the scholarships that are available to college students there. So just go to our website, dairyshrine.org. You'll see a way to contact us, or just shoot me an email at info@dairyshrine.org, and we can certainly get you involved.
And we're happy to put all those links in the show notes as well, so that there's an easy way to make sure that if this is something that you want to be a part of too, that we can get you right to where you need to be with the information right at your fingertips. And so with that, Mike, thanks for jumping on with me today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. And we're excited to bring to our listeners this week these Pioneer Award winner stories from the National Dairy Shrine, with 5 incredible people who have shaped the future of the dairy industry that we're living in today.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Peggy, for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show, share this episode with your friends in the dairy community, and leave a review. At Uplevel Dairy, we are here to highlight the leaders, the lessons, and the real-world experiences that are shaping the future of our dairy industry. Find more by following us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and upcoming guests. And subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on learning, keep on leading, and keep up-leveling your dairy.